Can we, since David's here, can we start with that, the Helio stuff?
Yeah, sure. Go for it.
Okay, David, I'm very confused. Yeah, by let's see, PR. So 1159 is your PR to fixing the Helio parsing, and then 1157 is mine. And what I was very confused about was so in my fix, in registry underscore links, I had to use a new URL because it seemed like the old URL was broken or something, and I got everything working with that new URL.
Yeah, the thing that the URL that you use, I don't know where you got that URL, but that URL is not like it's like the URL directly to one machine.
But if I actually use a web browser and go to that URL, like it works. But if I use the old URL, it seems like it's gone. Like it's not there anymore.
With the slash or without the slash?
It's a URL. I didn't think it should matter. But perhaps I'm wrong.
It does matter. It does matter because the last slash, it's important for because those EDOI registry are not like normal URLs. So the last slash with the slash at the end, it should not work unless you have something afterwards. So what happens is that the URL that you have, it does work. But when they change that, when the people of Helio change that to the new thing and with the new, like properly standards, with the slash at the end doesn't work. But if you remove the slash, it does work.
So, okay, do you guys want to follow along? That's where
No.
So, nobody wants to follow along. That's fine. But if you if you want to, here are the two URLs. So the old URL provides one page. So the two pages look exactly the same, except that the URL that I'm using provides way more schema locations than the old one. So, in fact, the original doesn't provide any schema locations, which I assume is maybe some sort of XML standard. So, is there a reason for that, David?
Okay, I'm opening now the website. So the one that you provide,
so I don't have the slash on the one you sent, and if I put in the slash, then it says no resources found.
yeah, if you put the slash at the end, it doesn't work. That's the thing. And
Okay,
the one
yeah.
that you have, it has the slash in as 2% here, so if you remove it, you get the same thing. Like, you get the same thing that the one that I have. But you get what you got, which it contains a schema location same, which yeah, which I will have to ask, that extra information.
Okay, well,
But
if you can just verify that because when I was digging through this stuff, it seemed like the original URL was somehow kind of abandoned or something, but I didn't really dig too much into this XML stuff, and I don't know very much about it. So can you just confirm that the URL that we've been using is the right one and hasn't been moved?
Yeah, no, I confirmed that like long time ago. I can reconfirm it again with him. But
Okay. Okay, that's
the
fine.
thing,
That's fine.
okay. But the thing is that, for example, in the so we should be using anyway the one that starts with registry, Ilio, VO. The other one is just linked to a machine at MSSL.
Yeah.
So both should be the same. Now, I don't know
Right.
why the other one works with the slash, giving you this extra XML information,
Yeah.
but both should be the same.
Well, that might
And
be something having to do with the
when,
web server.
yeah,
How
well,
the
it's
web
not
server is
about,
running.
this thing is more about what they have now is multiple instances of like mirrors of the machine. So when you're going to the registry chooses which one to send you. So that's why we are not maybe seeing the same machine, but sometimes you might be seeing the same one. You understand what I mean?
Yeah. Okay. Well. Okay. So I'll just I'll merge in your changes because they're so small into my PR, and then we can
Okay, no, but before that, because in your changes, my changes just change slash to compare with it. But in your changes, inside the slash, you change also like the timeout and the way the response, like how it's connected to the URL. I wonder why you changed that.
Because I changed the time. Well, I put in the timeout wasn't there before. So if a server wasn't there, it would just hang and just look for the server forever. So I added a timeout so that it would, continue on. You don't want somebody's, Python prompt to be frozen because it can't find some server out there.
So the timeout was there, but it was not used.
Yeah, it was not used. That's right. It wasn't implemented. So I implemented it.
Okay.
Yeah. So that's all I did. That's the only thing I changed there. So somebody had previously defined the link timeout, assuming that they would use it, but then they didn't use it. So I just put it in. That's all.
Okay, so I can add that to my pull request, and then we can add it with timeout.
Okay. Yeah. If you want to do that on yours, and we can
Okay.
just delete mine. That's fine.
Okay, so we'll add that in mine, and we'll update both of mine. Okay, cool.
Okay. Thanks. Uh, since a lot of us are here, is the everybody's fine with the board meeting on Friday, this Friday? So make sure to take some time and look at the proposed SEPs and propose some comments and such. I don't know that the SEPs are quite in the state that they can be voted on yet, but we should be providing comments and such. That's what we'll be discussing. All right. Other PRs to discuss. Stuart.
Yeah, the coordinates PR isn't really finished. British and I are hoping to get some time on it this week, but it's not looking hopeful.
Mm. Stuart, I had a question about the time range thing and AstroPy helpers. So let's remind myself what happened. So okay, this is what I was doing. I was trying to work on the on my doc error on my time range on this is 1095, and trying to fix the doc error thing. And so I had to build the documentation locally, and I don't know. I was running into some usual weirdness. It wasn't really necessary, but I decided to update to the latest version of Sphinx. That turned out to be a problem because this introduces a bug that AstroPy. So we're currently using some Sphinx helpers that are in AstroPy Sphinx or AstroPy something and then Sphinx. When we build our documentation, and they've since moved that stuff out into AstroPy. Well, they haven't moved it out. It's still there, but they're no longer maintaining it, and they've moved to Astro. So all the developments moved out to AstroPy helpers. So it turns out they know about this bug, and they said essentially they're not going to fix it in the main AstroPy repo. They're gonna just fix in AstroPy helpers, which they did. So if I added AstroPy helpers, it worked just fine. But Stuart, you said you didn't want to include AstroPy helpers until later on, and why is that? And so on and so forth.
I want to include AstroPy helpers as soon as I can.
Okay.
I've already done a fair amount of the groundwork required to do that. I did it before 0.5 and then came to the conclusion that it wasn't ready for 0.5. I also pushed some patches up into AstroPy helpers. So I have our documentation building using AstroPy helpers, and I have our package building using AstroPy helpers, or at least I did sometime around 0.5. I'm assuming most of it will still work.
Yeah.
What I don't have running is the testing through AstroPy helpers. Although now that there has been some changes made upstream in AstroPy helpers, that may also be working.
Okay. Well,
So,
I got the doc.
If you've been working on it, I have a branch that you could take off me, if you like.
For the docs or the testing? So I only got the docs
Hold on.
working. Yeah.
Right, okay, so the difference between, I think, your approach and my approach is we won't install AstroPy helpers as another dependency. It will be included in our source list.
Right. Okay.
Which it means that you don't have to install it before you build the package. Because
Sure.
AstroPy helpers is a build time dependency. It means you don't have to install AstroPy helpers first and then build it. It means you can just do pip install SunPy from a completely clean environment, and it should work.
But we still need
Emphasis
to
on the
tell users we still need to tell users to install NumPy doc, right, before they can build the documentation.
Sure, I'm not talking about documentation for this. For that comment is leveled at the package for building SunPy. So AstroPy helpers, as well as doing the documentation, also provides a lot of setup helpers for doing Python setup.py.
Sure.
Which fix a lot of oddities with us and make it much easier for us to build things.
Sure, sure. I mean, so you're talking about AstroPy helper helps in a lot of ways. I am just wondering whether we want to just have it necessary for just the docs.
I don't particularly want to do a half build, because if we do that, we're going to have to tell people to pip install AstroPy helpers now, the docs, and then tell them not to pip install AstroPy helpers later when we include it properly. I feel as though we should just do it properly and roll with it.
Yeah.
And seeing how, like, I have done an amount of this, my branch is here. Feel free to check it out and try and make it work.
Okay, well, so I guess what I can do is I'll get my code running with AstroPy helpers, and then I'll remove the AstroPy helper stuff. Sorry, I'll get my docs building properly, and then I'll remove the AstroPy helper stuff. bring it back to what it was before, and then presumably then it'll be fixed. And then that will remove it from that PR.
I think there is it's a Sphinx bug, right? Something changed in Sphinx that broke the AstroPy and AutoMod API extensions. So to make it work, you have to downgrade Sphinx.
Yeah, that's right. That's
Yeah.
right. Well, I don't know that it's a Sphinx. Well, it's not whatever. Sphinx changed.
Sphinx changed. It's not a bug in
Sphinx
Sphinx. It was a Sphinx change from underneath AstroPy, which broke AstroPy.
Yeah. Okay, fine.
So as you can see, if anyone who's loaded that branch, you can see that I have AstroPy helpers as a Git submodule in that branch.
Oh yeah, I see it. That's cool.
Yeah, and and then you have a ah bootstrap.py in the main repo copied out of AstroPy helpers, which makes sure that setup.py has a copy of AstroPy helpers before it runs, and then in the doc. If you go into doc source conf on that branch, you can see that there is some import wizardry at the top to get hold of AstroPy helpers, which I nicked out of the AstroPy package template.
Yeah. Okay. Well, so I don't know that I'll have much time to work on this, and this is sort of out of my area of expertise anyway, but I'll poke around a little bit. It would be nice to have it in the 0.6, but
I agree, and I haven't actually tried this out. Or maybe I'll give it a try later.
yeah, I don't know. There's so much other stuff for you to do. I don't know that you should do this as well. Right? Right?
Yeah.
Okay. One thing I wanted to tell everyone as I was messing around with the docs is use the awesome Python facility for linking to other documentation. So we don't do that enough. In fact, sometimes we added hard links instead of just using this facility. So all you have to do is, if you want to refer to AstroPy units or something, just do the whatchamacallit. What's it called? Underneath the tilde. This character. What is that character? No, the other one. It's tilde if you use shift.
Like a sideways quote. I don't know.
It is tilde. You can use it. You can do it using tilde as well. Can't you? Oh no, tilde shortens it. That's right. If you use backtick, it
Backtick. Backtick.
If you use backtick, it does the full path. Whereas if you do tilde AstroPy.units.quantity, it will just print quantity, but still do the link.
Right. That's right. So it'll just do a link. So you can click that link, and it'll bring you to the AstroPy docs of that thing. And it works the same way you use any other imports. You've imported AstroPy, so AstroPy.units.quantity, for example. It is awesome, and we need to use it more. That is all.
See you later, guys.
See ya. Okay. Where are we on our pile of 0.6 to do? Oh yes, okay, so Andy, Jack, did you see Rishad's comment in his unified download of PR the other day?
Yes. I don't think there are any other level changes required. So I should only just tell him that.
But so is it everything else? What levels are all the others downloading? Though that's the important thing we need to know. you know what level data the others are pulling.
The only levels which are available, I think.
Yeah, sure, but what are they? Is it all level 0 data?
Does it really matter what the number is?
It means that if the user specifies the level attribute, we can make sure that it's right. So it means that if the user specifies level 1, we can go, sorry, I can't give you level 1 data.
You're talking about light curve data?
Yeah. Because we actually have access to 2 levels of Eve data.
Yeah,
Because
Eve
level
is
1 Eve data is accessible through the fixer.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure Eve is like the only one that is kind of smart about that. And that's only because the level like 0, Eve is used as a space weather product, and so they want to release data as quickly as possible. So they release like level 0 data very fast, like within 5 minutes or something of the satellite actually detecting this stuff.
Okay, Lyra does have 2 levels. Actually, they do have 3 levels available. They only provide a link to one of them. The level 3 is level 2 calibrated. Averaged over a minute.
What instrument is that, sorry?
Lyra, I'll make a note about
Yeah,
Lyra.
because we've got all the different levels from Lyra as well that Rishab also implemented.
I'll reply to him just now, or after this telecom, about Lyra anyway.
Yeah, because that needs to be changed. I think unless you guys have some serious time to throw into this, I think we're going to have to bump 0.6 by a month, and I think we might as well admit that fact now.
That's a mistake. People are going to not do anything for the next 2 weeks.
We have more deadlines. Okay, we have exactly 2 weeks. Oh, I will take it out the back and shush you. It's the only way to do it.
Yeah, I mean, based on what's going on now, I think it would be very hard. But the first, our first deadline is really the feature freeze, right?
Yes.
And I think we can still leave that October 1st, right? And work on those other things.
We can try. I reckon the chances of us getting everything in by October the 1st is basically 0, but yeah, sure.
I mean, so let's define a feature freeze. What does that mean? It means if you have to have a PR in with what you want to get included, does the code have to work?
Well, if you have a freeze, you can't pull something. I mean, like.
Yeah, you can't add. You certainly cannot add a pull request, right?
Okay, let's have a PR freeze at the start of October, where we are going to milestone no more PRs and issues as 0.6. So if you don't have an open PR by the 1st of October, it is definitely not going into 0.6. And then we will have a feature freeze, which is no more feature PRs to be merged into master at that point. And that's the point where we fork off to 0.6 branch and do bug fixes on 0.6.
Well, I don't think I understand the difference.
Okay.
You can't, so once you pass the PR freeze, you can't add a feature PR anyway, right?
No, but you can merge them. So the feature freeze, we're going to merge no more features.
Ah.
Yes, so at the feature freeze, we are going to merge no more large feature PRs, only bug fixes, and we will branch to 0.6 and do the bug fixes on the 0.6 branch. The PR freeze at the start of October is if you don't have an open PR milestone as 0.6, it will not be going into 0.6.
That sounds good.
Okay.
Maybe we should send that out in an email.
Yes, I will send an email out to that effect. Okay, so what have we got open? How is your sample data PR coming along?
It's good. I haven't had. I saw your comment or email. I forget how you communicated. I agree. David said the same thing, that as it currently stands, there's no way for somebody to understand that the files are not available. So I think I figured out a way where essentially it would, on import, it would complain if the files are not there. So I'll fix that this week.
The other comment was we need to remove all tests that use sample data.
Yeah.
That shouldn't be a massive undertaking, right? You just need to resample the files that are used for the tests and point the tests at the test files.
Yeah. So as I recall, our ability to resave a FITS file is a little bit janky. Is it still working? I don't want to wrestle with that.
I think it works. I'm pretty sure doing, at least for most things, a resample save will work.
Okay.
The other option is that you do it using AstroPy commands. So
Yeah.
open the FITS file using AstroPy, then build a SunPy map out of the header and the data, do the resample, extract the data, and rebuild a FITS file from an updated header and the output data from the SunPy map. The only thing you have to make sure is that the header updates to the new byte size of the array.
Yeah, I can try to do that. I actually noticed that I tried to open some of those as maps, some of those test data, and I got errors, which suggests that something's wrong with those files. But I assume that they're being used in tests, so they're working in some way or not. I don't know.
Some of them have not had the header information updated, so the header thinks the array is larger than it actually is, which is some of the errors that get spewed out when you try and open them using AstroPy.
Okay.
It
doesn't read it. It just like freaks out when you try to open it.
I don't know whether one has completely. I don't know whether one has completely. I don't know. I thought they all opened. I could be wrong. They just complained while they were doing it.
Okay. Okay. Well, I'll try to fix that as well.
On the subject of errors, notice that AstroPy starts spewing out
Yes.
tons of errors when you open a FITS file now.
Yeah.
Can we turn that off somehow?
We can apparently. I just talked to Perry about that. Yes, that could be turned off somehow, and I think we should.
Can we? I thought you had to do that from. I thought you had to do that on the AstroPy config file side though. I don't think we as a library can turn that off. I think that's a user.
Yeah. It doesn't look good for the user, right?
No.
All that do that.
Well, maybe if we leave it there, the next instrument that builds fits files will make one that validates properly.
Well, that's a bit optimistic because that requires them to be using SunPy.
Yeah, I agree.
Well,
I said
like being
exactly.
optimistic.
I said the exact same thing to Perry. I was like, "This seems very weird for the users," and he's like, "Oh, but they should go and complain." And I was like, "I don't know. The users have nothing to do with this, really."
Yeah, they're just going to be freaked out.
Yeah, I think we can. I would say that we turn it off at least for 0.6. Maybe we can consider turning it back on later on, but it's sort of a nasty introduction to 0.6, right? That all of a
It does
sudden,
it in 0.5 too. It definitely does it under 0.5 as well.
Yeah, right, isn't it? Yeah.
well, yeah, I guess it only does that now because SunPy has updated.
Yeah, oh sure, okay, but yes, there are some users that may still be using SunPy 0.3 with 0.5 where it won't do it for them, but anyone who's updated to the new version of SunPy will already be getting that.
Yeah, well, and the other thing I would say is we should remove a lot of those warnings because until we figure out which ones are really applicable to us, I mean, we use some non-standard things because we're in solar, right? And they're looking specifically from an astronomy perspective. So some of those warnings are actually not.
All of those warnings are fits files standard violations.
Yeah,
That's
but
why they're throwing them.
we have quote-unquote standards that lie on top
They're
of
not
it.
standard. They're not standard.
I disagree
They're
with that.
standards in our community.
No, they're not. They're de facto standards that people use all the time. That's not the same thing.
Well, the point is though that there may be hypothetical standards, but they are not used. And so to throw a warning on something that's hypothetically a standard but is never actually adopted is not very helpful.
Yeah. I really think we should squash those errors for now, or warnings for now, because they're not useful for the users. We don't even have a large enough user base that people would go and complain anyway. It would make any difference. So,
Well, look into squashing them, and especially if we have some fine-grained control over which ones we squash. But I honestly don't know how we can squash those. I thought that you could squash them from an AstroPy config file, but not from a library on import. But I might be wrong. You might be able to set some import flags.
yeah, okay. I wonder if we can. Well, yeah, we can look into that.
I suppose you might be able to set some parameters. I suppose you might be able to set some flags in the module before you actually read the file. So some changes to I/O could squash them. But we're going to need to, if we're going to do that, we're going to need to. I'd like to have fine-grained control over it rather than just squashing all of them. It would be nice to know which ones we're squashing and have justifiable reasons for them. Because obviously we don't want people to create fits files, read them in with SunPy and not get a warning when they should. We don't want to proliferate bad fits files.
Yep.
I personally don't want to tolerate the bad fits files we have at the moment. They have a little bit. Okay, who wants to take this CD matrix calculation thing off me? This isn't a question, this is a statement. Someone is taking this off of me. Who's it going to be?
This is the rotation? If it has something to do with the rotation, it's going to be Albert.
Okay.
Yay.
That it also needs backporting to 0.5. Basically, at SitWork, I had a chat with some swap people, and swap used the CD rotation matrix, and it turns out that the mathematics that I put in the header to deal with the CD rotation matrix was just crap, and therefore it's very broken and needs fixing.
Do we have a test file on that?
Yes. Did I add one to this PR? Yes, I did.
Okay.
Thanks, Albert.
You're welcome.
Steve, how's your plot functionality PR coming on?
I haven't had a chance to work on any more. The stuff that you suggested, I don't know I'm going to have time to do that. So, like, going beyond and removing all the plot stuff.
Oh, no, I wasn't necessarily suggesting that you do that. I was just saying that I like the direction you were going in because it aligns to doing that.
Okay. Yeah, I mean, this kind of merges with the other one. We need to have a test file, or not a test file, a sampler file for each of the instruments, and I wanted to go and check all of those, so I started downloading. But one thing that I think we should do, and I wanted to fix it as part of this PR, the plotting of maps. We, for a long time, I think because of Keith and HelioViewer, the way we display like STO and EIT images, well, not EIT, but STO definitely, is we clip at. So if you're looking at like an active region, it's totally saturated at the top. It's essentially like the calculation was like find like the standard deviation of the map and then 3 times the standard deviation, and so we show a linear color scale from 0 to 3 times the standard deviation of the map or something like that. Average plus 3 standard deviation. Yeah, that's right. So for an SDO map, that brings you up to from 0 to like 1,000 or something, or 2,000. But the maximum of the images is like 9,000. So we're clipping, not a lot of pixels, but a lot of, of that upper range. So I suggest that we move away from that. There's a few ways we can do that. One of which is by just using a different normalization scaling. We can use like a power law scaling, or we can also mess with the gamma. So does anybody have a preference to that? Should we move away from kind of, well, I mean, once you introduce a gamma, it's sort of not really linear anyway, but yeah, has anybody had a chance to like think about that or care about that or what?
My preference is honey as far as documented. I don't care.
Okay, I'll play around with it and then I'll add it to that notebook that I have associated with that PR. So
what's the default in IDL? Is it just to go min max?
As far as I know.
I don't know actually.
Which what command?
Oh, let's say you plot map with the Comic Zeros map.
Yeah. Well, so it just uses whatever color table you have loaded at the time, and I think it just does. Yeah, it goes from 0 to max.
Or min to max.
Does it do min or 0?
I think if there's negative values, it might. Well, I don't know actually.
Yeah.
So I mean, we could consider that as well to go from min to max.
Well, the problem with doing from 0 on a linear scale, you really can't. It looks terrible. That's why we did that other way. I mean, that's why HelioViewer does it another way as well.
Right.
So you cannot use linear and go from 0 to max because it really does not present to you like a nice looking map that you can see things.
What I often do when I plot AA images is plot them as log.
Yeah, you can use a log normalization as well. But you don't want to log the data. It has to be all in the color table. That's the difference.
Well, there's a matplotlib normalization object, which is how we do it at the moment, right?
Right.
Well, I don't know very much about this. I don't really care. But my gut instinct is to do kind of what we're doing at the moment, in that I like keeping the scaling linear, but clipping one way or another.
Really?
Because to my mind, keeping the scaling linear and clipping is less fiddly than
No, that's rubbish. So that's just, you can't do that. You have to take the logarithm. The data does not fit on a linear scale. The sun is not linear. So you have to do something like that. If you want to see any features, then you have to take some kind of non-linear scaling. That's just the way it is. There are very few data sets which you can see all the features you need to see with a linear color table.
Yeah. I mean,
You have to either do something to the data non-linearly or have a non-linear color table.
Well,
Otherwise, you don't see anything.
Why don't you create an issue, show what the images look like, and do min to max linear, or what they look like right now, what it looks like with a min to max linear, and what it looks like with gamma.
Yeah, okay.
We should also make it the same for all the images we plot, all the EUV images at least, that we plot.
Yeah, make it consistent, you mean?
Make it consistent, and also make it easy to change. I know I added that matplotlib color normalization thing a while ago, or changed it a while ago anyway. So it is user accessible, but we should make it obvious to the user how to change that.
Yeah, I always forget. So would it be okay if I considered changing the API for that? Because it's sort of a mess.
Well, it's not I don't think it's that much of a mess. There's an attribute on the map called mpl_color_normalizer or something. Can't remember. It's long-winded, but it's descriptive. It was just .norm before, which is very ambiguous because that could be the norm of the data rather than the normalizer instance for plotting.
Yeah.
And then there's a private member _get matplotlib normalizer, which is the default, which returns the default one for the map, which is used in init. So when you initialize a map, it calls the get method of the map and populates the attribute with that default, which then allows the user to change it later.
Well, if we're gonna move towards this direction of having everything defined for the plots somewhere, why don't I move it all in there? So I can have like a plot attributes variable, and then in there it'll hold everything. It'll hold the plot types, it'll hold the normalization stuff and the color map. And at least it'll be one place that people can go and see. Because right now the problem is like it's really easy to get access to the color map when you're calling plot or peak, but not so much on the normalization. Like the way what we made what we made available to the user when they actually call plot or peek is sort of strange. We give them access to gamma, vmin, and vmax, and the color map, but not the normalization object.
What? You can feed a normalization object into map.plot. You just do norm equals. It's a standard IM show keyword.
Oh, okay, okay. But it's okay.
But there's a default attributed to the map, which is
yeah.
NPL underscore color normalizer. The thing is, you can't. One of the reasons for that is that it allows us to set a nice default, and also it allows us to, when you use MapCube, it allows each map in the MapCube to have a different one.
Yeah. No, that's right. I'm not arguing with that. Just arguing with, or maybe misunderstanding what is available and what's not. That's fine.
Yeah, in theory, you can pass any IM show keyword argument to map.plot, and it will override the defaults and pass it through.
Yep. But should I move all the plot things into a new, like, plot attribute or something? So they'll all be there in anticipation of.
Oh, into some kind of dictionary.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's a good idea. Yeah, definitely.
Okay.
Have a plot settings or something.
Yeah.
Which is that's a good idea.
That'll make things a little bit happier, I think, for me.
I was trying to do some demos and figure out change plot features. So I was confused as well.
Okay. All right. Thank you. I'm going to have to leave in 5 minutes. Yeah.
The other thing you could do is... No, don't worry about it. Never mind.
Done.
All right. I wanted to raise one thing. And Stuart, you might know more than I on this. 2 weeks ago, I canceled a PR from the bill about removing the NA code.
Yeah.
And he never resubmitted it. Is that something we're going to do?
Maybe.
Okay.
Basically, it's going to come down to, do we get a Python 3 port working, or do I write a Cython wrapper for that code? Which one happens first determines whether it stays or whether it goes. Because that C API wrapper is very, very not Python 3 compatible.
Ah, okay.
Or at least I don't have the understanding of the C API to make it Python 3 compatible.
Sure.
I have with a lot of help from people at SunPy, I have got some of the way towards writing a Cython wrapper for it. However, that is quite a long way down my to-do list. But mainly because it's demoralizing and hateful writing it.
CFG files.
So yeah, that's what happened on that.
Okay.
Andy, what's going on with your Fermi PR?
I have not had time to work on it yet. I was away this week in Dublin, but I hope to get to it soon.
How was your presentation in Dublin? Tell.
Oh, yeah, tell.
David.
How was Dublin?
Okay. It was good. Well, there were two things that happened. I gave a demo session one lunchtime. There were about 15 people came, and Dan helped me out there. So that was great. People seemed kind of interested. And then obviously I gave the talk to the Solar Orbiter guys. It's part of a longer working group meeting that went on quite a long time. I'll just summarize for now. I guess we could talk a little bit more, maybe at the board meeting as well. I mean, they were all kind of interested, like they like Python as an idea. It's not clear whether that's going to translate into any sort of action on the instrument level, because it's not clear what the, well, it wasn't clear to me what the relationship between the people on the panel was and the instrument PIs. And in fact, they spent some time discussing what their role was. So, like, they're interested, but I'm not sure what concrete things came out.
Okay. Well, that's unfortunate.
Yeah, I'm not sure how to describe it. I mean, David, you're on this working group. Can you provide any other insight?
My only insight is that I haven't been in any of the real person-to-person meetings. I've always been like away. Bye, Steven. Okay. So I don't know. I just, from when I was in Dublin, I saw that they were pushing a little bit, but it's like everyone in their own world, and all of them are doing like things at the same time. So I don't know.
Okay.
I think if we manage to get, I know that the people from Paris are getting more and more interested in Python. I don't know if you met there, Xavier Bonin. So if we manage to get them on board and try to use SunPy, there may be more chance to get the others as well on board.
Yeah, right. I think I have to go. I'm being forcibly removed from Albert's office. But yeah, we can talk some more about this the next thing.
Sure.
All right. See you guys.
All right. Thanks, guys. Anyone got anything else they want to talk about?
I review a little bit Ash's pull request of Spectra, and there's a few things that they need to be fixed. So I have a pull request to him. I don't know if you've seen it. But that's still a work in progress. So.
Drew, what's going on? Oh, Drew's left. Damn it, Drew. Damn it, Drew! Okay, never mind.
Oh, bloody Travis. Oh.
Yeah, what's up with Travis? Obviously,
So we need to fix the seed that we fixed also for 0.5.
What's wrong with Travis now?
You know the thing that I fixed the other day, the import by name from SunPy.
Yes.
It fails now in 0.5 as well.
Oh yeah, that's because it will by default will use the most up-to-date strings build.
Huh?
Travis will by default use the most up-to-date version of Sphinx that it can install. So you will also need to force Travis on 0.5 to use the old version of Sphinx.
So what do we know? What do we wanna do?
You just need to port your Travis YML patch to 0.5.
No, but with 0.5, what do we do?
What do you mean?
We force it to run it on that version.
Yeah.
Okay. I will do a pull request for that then.
Okay, in that case, I think we're done.
yeah. Okay,
I
thanks
agree.
then. Bye.